Waiting to say the live video has actually started. All right, it says we are now live. So I want to start off by just welcoming everyone who is here, but also everyone joining us on Facebook and eventually YouTube. All right, so tonight, obviously last week, we went through World 1, but last week was also a major snowstorm. So I'm going to do a quick review of World 1 because I've had multiple people ask if that would be a possibility tonight, and then we'll delve into World 2. Okay? Out of curiosity, how many of you have finished your things? All right, if you haven't, don't worry. I will go ahead and you can either finish it now, or I can get you sort of alternative if you don't want to go through all the questions. Okay, so just let me know after class. Actually, when we get to sort of dividing everybody up into groups, then you can let me know there. Because I'll have a group of folks who don't know what they are, unless like you read about World 1 and go, oh, I'm sure of that, or 2, and you're like, oh yeah, definitely that. Okay? Any questions before we start? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and get going. So we're going to delve into World 2 now. Give you a heads up. So what the worlds are is we're talking about spirituality, not theology. Theology is about the things that are universal, right? A theological statement is Jesus resurrected from the dead. That is either true or it's not. You either believe it or you don't, right? That's theology. Theology is something that is true for me, true for you, true for everyone. But because that's what theology is, that means theology is a small segment of stuff. Most of what we do at church isn't theology. Most of what we do at church is spirituality. What is spirituality? It's the ways in which we connect spiritually with God and with each other. And that can be really different, right? Because one person might really enjoy this sort of music, and someone else enjoyed that sort of music, and someone sits down and listens to a gorgeous, beautiful organ, and that connects them to the divine. Okay? And someone else listens to an amazing, awesome rock band, and that connects them to the divine. That's not theology, that's spirituality, right? Neither is right, neither is wrong. It just is what it is. The reality, though, is that spirituality is more important than theology because most of what we do as Christians is to go ahead and live out a spiritual life. Right? Theological worlds is sort of misnamed, okay? It's an older name for theology. I would really call spiritual worlds if it was done now. Okay? Because what we're dealing with is there's no right or wrong. It's just talking about how we relate to God. It was a big study done back in the 80s. They created 5 basic archetypes in which they look at how Christians historically have related to God. Okay? And they sort of divided the archetypes into groups. So one of the big goals of this class is to explore our worlds, to know ourselves better, explore the conflicts that sometimes exist between worlds because certain spiritualities rub up against others, and talk about that. But also to get the appreciation for the fact that when you walk into church, and I hear this from people all the time. Well, I went to this church when I was on vacation, and oh, it was horrible, or oh, it was amazing. It should always be this, or never be that. Again, I'd say most of the time when I hear that from someone, it isn't because they're having a theological or ethical or moral issue. Every once in a while it is. But it's because they are running into a church that is focusing on a different spiritual world. So a great example is World 1 folks, we're going to talk about this, and World 4 folks having natural point of clash. So it's hard to make a church service that a World 1 and a World 4 person are both going to like. You can create one that they're both okay with, but if one's jamming like, this is the best thing ever, the other one's like, oh, when is this going to end? Okay? But that's okay. Being conscious of that in yourself helps you in your spiritual growth. Because it keeps you from judging someone else as shallow. Maybe they're just a different world answering a different question. Okay? Each world, the basic argument is that each world, when you start off and you're a kid, you're sort of spiritually neutral. Most kids aren't really interested in deep spiritual conversations. But something happens in your life. It doesn't have to be bad, it can be good. That gets you started on a spiritual journey. There's a question, something you've seen, something you've observed, something that eats away at you. That gets you to start asking the big questions. And as you start asking those questions, it leads you down certain general roads, which can either be functional or dysfunctional. And so we're going to talk about that with each one. Are you following me so far? All right. So World 1. World 1 experiences life as having fundamentally arbitrariness. Perhaps like a friend or a family member dies suddenly and for no good reason. So a good person walks down the street one day, who you love, and a bus hits them. Okay? You sit there, you struggle with it, you go, I can't blame the person. I can't really blame the bus. The bus driver didn't do anything wrong. It was just this horrible incident. Okay? So this feels arbitrary. Okay? Or maybe you have a job that you're really good at and you're amazing at, and you get to the top of your industry and you realize you have no passion about it at all. You've hit all the markers you wanted, you've been super successful, and instead of finding satisfaction and peace, you find emptiness. That's a very world one thing. So it starts to say, well, is it arbitrary? Could I ever find peace? Is that even out there to be found? Okay? Perhaps you simply study the universe and wonder of your own existence in a world that seems chaotic. You'll find a lot of physicists end up in World 1 because they start looking at all the chaos in the universe and how small like Earth is in comparison to all the planets of the world, and then they go, what does my life matter? If I'm one being for 100 years on Earth that's billions of years old, in a universe that's billions of years older. Okay? So what is the main feeling? What's the main emotion that drives this, that sits at the center? It's a feeling of longingness or loneliness. It's this idea that I'm longing for something that's relevant. I'm longing for this, so I can click. That's what we're working for. Okay, so we're going to do a prayer each night from each world. So we're going to do a prayer and read it as best you can with me. If you're too far back to say it, that's all right. God of mercy, we come before you without pretense. We confess that the world is broken and that we are caught in its brokenness. We doubt, we struggle, we trust too much in ourselves and too little in your grace. Meet us here, not because we are certain, but because you are faithful. Free us to tell the truth, to love our neighbors, and to live by grace rather than fear. We ask this in the hope we cling to you, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. The obsession, the thing that occurs. Isolation experiences abandonment, maybe mystery, obtuseness, thrownness, opaqueness. The world seems hard to grasp. Not the internal world, the external world. This will be important because threes are a mirror image of ones in lots of ways. This causes a deep sense of longing to the individual, for at home, for community, for friendship, for love. You find those folks who seem to be sort of your romantic types who are looking for love, looking for community, those are often ones. Big-hearted folks. This happens because at some point in their life, they looked at the world around them and posed the question, why does it have to be this way? And the world responded, because it is. I can tell you, because it is to that question is a bad World 5 answer. Okay? Now I'm a World 5 2. That is a dysfunctional 5 responding to a 1. Okay? Over time, the person comes to believe that they are different and unaccepted by the world. So if they keep being told, as their longing saying, why is the world this way? Explain the world to me. Especially if you have a child to a parent, and the parent's just like, dude, the world is this way, just grow up. You get a child who starts thinking, why am I the only one asking these questions? They're not giving me answers. They haven't even asked the question. What is wrong with me? And the child or the person starts to feel alien. Again, it doesn't have to be in their childhood, but it often is. So what theology do the folks in World 1 find meaning? They're attracted to a Christ that is a revealer, invoker, someone who will lead them home. Right? Because they're an alien. They want to go home. It's like E.T. I would like to phone home. They often are looking to a God who will mediate or love that will tear the veil of the nothingness. Because the fear is that there is no point to life. That searching for the point to life will lead to nothing. They want a home where there is a meaning in life. Because that's the fear. Everything seems arbitrary. Everything seems weird. I can't understand this. Everyone else seems to just be going about their day. I'm weird because I'm asking these questions. What's wrong with me? Can we see this represented in art? Absolutely. So a lot of World 1 is in spirituals, gospel music, and folk music. Nobody knows Trouble I've Seen. Yeah, no, okay. Amazing Grace, the original traditional hymn. Coming Home by Clay Evans, Wayfair Stranger, for example, if we have any fans out there. Think of the world of Leonard Cohen or Bob Dylan, or I Can Only Imagine if you go Christian Contemporary for us 90s kids. Books. Early writings of Thomas Merton is very much him in a World One setting, so if you're a Thomas Merton fan. Flannery O'Connor is short stories, if you are happen to be a fan of Irish stuff. Specific examples would be like The Magnets by John Fowles, Secret Life of Plants. Anyone? Okay. By Peter Tompkin, or The Odyssey. We had to read that at school. In cinema, Breaking Bad is a great example of World One gone to a bad place, right? Because he gets cancer, right, at the beginning of the thing. He's a decent guy at the beginning. He gets cancer, everything falls apart. He decides the world doesn't matter, so I'm just going to do whatever I need to do to get whatever I need to get. If that involves killing people and cooking meth, then do it. Okay? That's World One with being very dysfunctional. Okay? But it is a great example of the struggle of World One. Because he sits out there going, is there any actual meaning to life? The Leftovers, The Good Place, particularly the later seasons of The Good Place, Lost, Fresh Prince, and when I say Fresh Prince, I mean the 90s version, not the new stuff. Perfect Strangers, Big Bang Theory. This one's actually fun. Big Bang Theory is an inverse one's relationships. So at the beginning of Big Bang Theory, you have this group of dorks who are completely lost. Y'all have seen Big Bang, obviously. Okay. All right, so they're completely lost. They don't get anything about the world. The world is mysterious. Girls are mysterious. People are mysterious. They all just don't make sense, right? And so they find Penny. And Penny, over time, helps them make sense of, like, humans. Okay? But as you work your way through the season, she doesn't understand, like, the academic world, which is their bread and butter. And so while she, in the early seasons, is sort of their savior of helping them make sense and order to the world, as she then goes back to school, they help her make order and sense of that. And so they both get to play the Christ figure in it. And also Homeward Bound. I know, right?
So sad.
It was sad. What do these people look for in a church? These folks who are worldwide find a great meaning in looking for God as parents and heaven as going home. All that sort of music and art and stuff where you're talking about God the Father and going home. Folks, this worldwide church family that accepts them and others. They see the church as a sanctuary where those who are lost can be found at home. Nature is often very meaningful as a sanctuary for them. It's very easy for these people to find God in nature. So you ever run to that person who's like, I could go worship at church, I'm a faithful guy, I'm not using this excuse, but I could also go on a hike and I'll find God just as well? Almost surely worldwide. Why? Because part of the reason they're looking for the divine is to feel connected with everything and what is nature, except for most of what we can see. The epiphana, or the resolution. Resolution doesn't mean solution, it means what jives well, what brings satisfaction, what brings joy and connection for World One people. Find a community that's home in harmony with nature and the cosmos. Like, you all notice we always have some sort of thing for nature in the prayers of the people every week, or prayers of intercession. These folks, if I don't have something about nature, will be in my office after a week or two saying, hey, can we get something in there? I miss that. They miss it. They'll look for it. The reconciliation with God as the person needs a new way of seeing or self-discover. Depending on the person, this could be a mystical experience, so they're looking for the experience of discovery, experience of connection. On a more emotional end, it could be very mystical. On a more intellectual end, it could be very much like Plato's cave of ignorance. I want to learn, I want to pick up education, I want to understand the world. So you go very philosophical, you go very emotional. Just depends on the internal wiring of the person. Discovery is a means of reconciliation with the cosmos of God, and that's the driving force. I don't want to be an alien. I want to find home. Where do I fit in this greater thing? Strengths of World One. These folks usually get tolerance and forgiveness really well. Like, they'll pick up on tolerance and forgiveness, and they're good at practicing tolerance and forgiveness. They're very accepting, very forgiving. They usually hold gifts in pastoral care or care of nature. So you find the person who does a full-time job and then does another full-time job taking care of cats down at the local shelter. World One. Big heart. Okay? They're good at academic relations. Why? Because the last thing they want is to see someone alienated from church because they feel excluded. Okay? Therefore, why do we even have these stupid denominations? They just break people apart. Let's just get rid of all that silliness. Because they minimize differences between people, which isn't bad. A lot of differences are silly, right? They do this because they can easily see how the physical world isn't real, but God's world is. They don't get caught up in the latest shoes, the latest fashions, the latest this and that, because they see how that's all temporary. That comes and that goes at a blink of an eye. And what is of God is real. Weaknesses. Everyone's got strengths, everyone's got weaknesses. I'm not picking on one, you just have to be first because you're one. They can overlook problems of injustice because they do not look at those as necessarily real problems. The reason they don't is because World 1 folks don't want conflict. They want to avoid conflict. Because in a conflict, you run the risk that someone gets alienated, even if it's the perpetrator. So a bully comes in and starts bullying people. World 1 folks are like, can I avoid this? Can I sidestep this? Can I make the person who's getting bullied feel better about it because then I don't have to confront the bully? You can let, World 1 folks can let injustice go by. Because they don't want the fight, because they don't want the bully or anyone to feel alienated. So if they can sort of try to hold everyone together, they'll try that before they'll confront the bully and say, listen, cut it out. Because they know that the bully might walk away going, what's wrong with you? Now, if you're thinking that's the silliest thing you've ever heard, you're a World 2 person. This can cause a certain level of shallowness, and apathy can develop towards injustice and suffering. World 1 folks can sit there and watch someone suffer and feel for them and hurt for them, but they're never going to make a move to actually end the suffering if to make the move means you're going to have to alienate somebody else, because someone else is causing the suffering. Example of this would be, this is a real life example. So back in the 90s, good old San Francisco got all together and got hyperly focused on animal rights and animal care. So they brought a state-of-the-art animal care facility for cats and dogs. It was brilliant. It was amazing. Until the news media broke that the cats and dogs had better sleeping arrangements and soap than the local homeless shelter. Okay? It wasn't because they hated the homeless. It's because they got over-fixated on taking care of the animals. And so they didn't see the suffering on the other hand, or the irony of that. I would normally have you guys sit through 3 songs. I'm not going to do that to you because I don't think we have time this evening with the recap. And we would normally have broken into things, so let me get to World 2. And we'll do a full World 2 thing if that's okay with you guys. Does everyone feel like that was enough of a recap of World 1? I know I rushed that a little bit. Yes, all right. All right, so we're going to do full class for World 2, and this is what a normal class is going to look like. So prayer for World 2, please say it with me if you can read. God of justice and compassion, you call your people to love boldly and to seek the healing of the world. We confess that we grow comfortable while others suffer. Forgive our inaction and awaken us to your work among the least. Send us where your love is needed. Strengthen us to resist injustice, to build community, and to bear witness to your mercy. Make us instruments of your peace for the sake of Jesus Christ, who walks with the broken and the hopeful. Amen. Reading from World 2, Job 21, 23 through 26. One person dies in full vigor, completely secure and at ease, well-nourished in body, bones rich in marrow. Another dies in bitterness of the soul, never having enjoyed anything good. Side by side they lie in the dust, and the worms cover them both. One experiences life and history as centered around conflict, evil, and death. World 2 folks at some point encountered a profound injustice. This injustice led them to feel anger, and that anger leads them to action. It is this action that develops their personal view of God. These folks learn by doing. They interact with God by doing. They are angry. They can even be enraged because they see injustice or experienced injustice, and they want to fight back. Now, the obsessio. The normalist experienced as chaos, or an enigma, wrenched, invaded, oppressed, opposed. These causes a deep sense of history and institutions are evil. That life is a struggle that ends in nothingness and death. That's the question. That's the thing they're worried about. They're worried that they look at history and they say, peace is a time for countries to rearm between wars. The good guys don't always win. We gotta fight against evil. We don't fight against evil. Evil wins. There's a reason this type is called the warrior. Okay? Their fear is that all life is a meaningless struggle. This happens because at some point they looked at the world around them and they made the observation, even the greatest people, the greatest nations, the greatest movements of history and time ended in nothing but dust. The Enlightenment came, the Enlightenment went. Rome raised, Rome fell. The British Empire came, the British Empire went. No matter if you think those are good or bad, you've got to admit they're dead. Right? So what theology do they find meaningful? They are attracted to Christ as a liberator. Folks in World 2 find great meaning in calling God Lord or King. You find folks who are like Lord, King, that sort of language, World 2. They're inspired to do good works and to feed the poor, to help the oppressed. These folks are the type that can be very political and socially engaged. They are the sort of folks who run food kitchens, clothing drives, organize people politically, right? So it can be very hyper-political, like let's get out the vote. It could also be very sort of political, but not in the electoral sense. It could be, what we need in this town is a kindergarten. I'm gonna build that sucker from the ground up if I have to. Okay, that's not really partisan. No one's against kindergartens. Okay, but that would be a socially engaged person. Okay, so they can look political with our modern sense, or not, but they're political in the Aristotelian sense of I'm engaged in society to make things better. Okay, your Lutheran world relief folks, World 2. Lutheran social services, World 2. Okay, because they see God's call to fight injustice as part of being a soldier of Christ. They see Christ as social institution. They see the church as a social institution that can help people as its primary task. So what's the reason we're a church? Help people. Yes, we worship. Yes, we do spirituality. Yes, we do education. But we are really here to go help folks. And if you're going to invite me to something, yeah, I might learn something, but I really want to go do something. Can we see this represented in art? Absolutely. The Battle Song of Phil Wickham, if you are a contemporary Christian fan. The Canticle of the Turning, if you like the ELW. My soul cries out with a joyful shout. Okay, make sure y'all looked at me blank, so I was like, yeah, surely you've sung this song enough times, you know what I'm talking about. Ye valiant soldier of the cross, onward Christian soldiers. I fought the good fight. Books, The Handmaid's Tale. Right? That is a tale of vengeance, especially if you go to the movies rather than the books. That is a tale of vengeance and victory at the end of the day. The Wave by the Wave, Moby Dick. Anything of Gustave Gutierrez, who's a major liberation theologian. Have you ever read any of his works? In cinema, Andor, When They See Us, Casablanca. Yes, right? So he goes from somebody sitting on the sidelines to deciding he's going to fight the Nazis, even that means he loses the girl, right? Okay, because he gets moved to make the world a better place. But the Vampire Slayer, Smallville, Teen Wolf, The Matrix, Lord of the Rings, you'll find a lot of millennial, younger Gen X, older millennial, even younger millennial, is very World 2. What we know statistically is that our newer generations seem to be heavy into World 2, which also explains a little bit about a lot of the stuff going on in the world, because the way they understand their religion is to get involved. What do these people look for from a church? Usually folks who are World 2 want a church that is fighting to make the world better. It's worth noting, some of you are going to think, oh, we're talking Democrats, or oh, we're talking Republicans. Reality is we could be. It depends on how you define making the world better. Okay? They want a church to be more political, more outwardly focused, and greater. They have no problem with the church being greater. Come as you are. These folks really mean it. Come with mud on your boots, who cares? Okay? Do we need elves? Sure, if it helps us get out there and feed the poor, let's wear elves. The elves are stopping us? Heck with the elves. I don't care. Okay? That's all audiopathy. They see right through all the sort of pomp and circumstance, because it's not what they're interested in. They're interested in what did we do? What did we accomplish? How many did we feed? These have little need for pomp or circumstance and focus on justice. They want a church that is a witness to the world and is working to make the world better. They're the folks who are always like, Pastor, you should talk more about current events. They need a reassurance that Christ has defeated those things humanity cannot defeat. So part of, as you go down the World 2 route, you have some problems that are going to haunt you. The biggest problem is, if I'm out there defeating things and making the world better, I can't, as a human, defeat death. I can delude myself for a while to think I can, but I can't. It's going to catch up with me. I can't really defeat evil in the world, right? Because no matter how much justice people have done, evil finds a way. Nor can I defeat my own individual or other people's sins. Because we're going to run across people that were just like, oh my goodness, how could you have done X, Y, Z? And they'll be like, I don't know, seems fun. And they blew everything up. Okay? These also deeply care about the recognition of heroes, right? Because part of it is they are warriors. They are fighting. What is noble about Christianity is that we are trying to make the world better. Therefore, those who have spent their life trying to do that, even in death, need to be recognized because they want to know that their fight is not for nothing. Therefore, these are the folks who really care about Memorial Day. Because they look at the fallen heroes and they say we should recognize them. Even if we don't know their names, we need to recognize the heroes that are there. All Saints Day, different sense of hero, but same argument, right? These are the spiritual heroes of our lives who have changed us, who've made us better. We need to recognize them when they're gone. Even if we don't remember their name anymore, they should be recognized as saints that came before because we stand on their shoulders and their accomplishments. We need to talk about Juneteenth because those are other heroes who have fought on the streets to make our country better, right? And talk about civil rights. You can see how you might be conservative, middle, or liberal, you can still hold to this. And which ones you perceive as heroes, that's up to ideology, it doesn't really have to do with spirituality. Spirituality is that you feel driven to talk about this. Follow so far? If you guys have questions, feel free to interrupt me at any point. World 2, strengths. These folks have a strong social consciousness and fight against injustice. They also are the type that would sacrifice greatly to help stop injustice and oppression for people they maybe never met. They have no problem being like, oh, there's an issue in this country I just heard about. I am definitely on board with dealing with that problem. Okay? These are your social activists on the right or on the left, and or those who work in social service agencies like food pantries, jail ministries, soup kitchens. Okay? Because they care. Weakness. These folks can sometimes get so focused on fighting injustice that they can neglect themselves spiritually. You've all met the person who works at the social service office. You're like, oh my God, please take a vacation. You have 500 days. Take one. You look like a mess. And they go, no, I have this huge caseload. Half those cases aren't yours. I know, but they need help. And you're like, get a nap, please, for God's sake. Okay, we love you so much, and we're saying nap time, please. They can neglect themselves emotionally or physically too. Okay? Easy burnout, folks. World 2 folks have to be very careful of burnout because they care so much. This neglect can lead to a number of problems. It can become overzealous for a particular cause. It can lead to ends justifying ends thinking. Okay? You can get so focused that what we got to do is save the environment that you say crazy things like, let's clear out all of Nebraska. Like, whoa, we've gone to a bad place. We start talking about forced migrations. You think I'm joking? That we can thank Stanford for that paper. Furthermore, we can also lead to the blurring of lines between political ideology and spirituality, which if not well defined, can lead to non-spiritual activism. Okay? You ever run to that person who says, oh my God, you're from the other party? How can you be a Christian? You're definitely not a Christian because you're from that other party. Okay? And if they can truly not conceive it, like they just are incapable, it's because they've lost the line of where ideology is and where spirituality is. They've merged the two, and that is a dangerous place to be. Because that's how you get fanatics. The resolution for World 2 folks. Find a community that helps them face death with a sense of victory, not defeat. It's step 1. And works to make the world more just by fighting for those in the world who the world turns its back on. So the second part they'll do naturally. The first part is you've got to get the person to start to realize death is not the end, it is the beginning. When I preach to World 2 people, I always preach about how God has defeated death, the devil, and sin. You'll hear that all the time. If you look through all my sermons, I say that term over and over and over. Every few weeks I'll hit on that. Because I'm signaling to my world too, folks, that I think we got a lot of them in our congregation. Hey, folks, you're okay. Death isn't the end. Because you're going with Christ and you're helping his kingdom come. Yes, you're doing that here on this earth because you're fighting against injustice. But you'll join him as a saint in heaven when he comes. And your work is not over. The recognition that God is with us in this world working to make it better. And I remind folks that, like, hey, the Spirit is here. The Advocate is with us. The Advocate walks with us. Yes, it might look bleak. Yes, it might look bad out there. But God is working. All you have to do is look backwards at history and say, aren't we better? The need to see that there are long arms of history that is towards justice and therefore the struggle that is life has done. Because at the end of the day, a victory will be brought. That is part of the promises of Christ. His kingdom will come. The second coming will occur. The world will be made perfect. When you die, you will be made perfect. What you do here isn't inconsequential because it affects the next generation. But the big things we worry about, God's already done. Which frees you up to deal with the things of this world. So now, what we're going to do is I want to divide you guys up into your groups, and we're going to listen to some music, and then we're going to have some conversations as groups. How am I doing? Oh, it's only 6. Good. So we got more time this time. All right. So do I have any World 1 people? Raise your hands. Do we identify any World 1 since last week? World 1? All right. Put you at this table here. So World 1 here. You're my only World 1? Okay, we'll see. Come over here for now. I might merge you with another group. All right, World 2, folks. All right, World 2, let's take this table here, just because I need things in order. I'm a little too linear. This is my weakness, not yours. So World 2, let's take this one, which means World 3, folks. Why don't we move over to this table? 3, so if you're a 3, come over here. Okay, World 4, go back there like where Lynette and Harry currently is, and then World 5 over there by Don and Dave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you don't know who you are, don't leave if you don't know who you are. If you don't know who you are, go to this table over here. If you're sitting here having learned World 1 or 2, and you're like, man, that sounds like me, and I have to take the test, and come to World 1 or 2. Correct.
I didn't know it was mine.
Are you a 3?
Yeah, I feel in the minority here.
But I'll address a question I keep hearing people ask in just a second. What? Are both 2 4s?
Yeah. Yes.
3 within 5 points. Okay, that's very common. 2 4s are a common thing you find. All right, so you're 1, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and you don't know who you are. Congregate over here at this table, and then I'll talk to you for a minute, and we'll get you figured out to the right tables.
Yes.
You're in your
Just
own
waiting for everyone to get like desserts.
He's always in his own. Are you a 3?
He didn't take mine.
You're not answering.
I know.
What? We didn't quite finish it. Okay. You worked on it. Some of the reporters are like,
Yeah, you get the job.
we're going.
It says, he's the one that told me they'd make it spicy. I put wing sauce. Yeah. See, my sauce doesn't make spicy. Wing sauce is
Right. Yeah.
it works. No, seriously.
It tastes good.
It's a terrible thing to say. I'm really big on manufacturing.
Yes.
Like, I make chicken with chicken. I make my own, I use my chicken tenders.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
It probably has corn syrup in it. Screw it, it just tastes better. You know.
What's this man talking about?
Yeah.
We're talking about food.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, that's it. I don't know.
All right. All right, so, because I get this question all the time, and I addressed it last week, but I forgot to address it in the quick review today. So when you did your quiz, you would have gotten 5 different numbers.
Yeah.
Now, if your top number, so people always ask this, well, what happens if I have a virtual tie? So I have like a 96 and a 95. Okay? You can have 2 different spiritual worlds, even 3 that you're working with at any given time, and it changes over time in your life. Okay? So your top spiritual world would be your first number. If you have one that is within 5 points, that is your second number. And then you could have a third that's still within 5 points, but statistically you can't have a fourth or fifth that's within 5 points, or at least you'd have to really work hard at it. Okay? So like for example, I am first to 5 and second to 2. Okay? So some of you might be 1 3s, 4 2s, things like that. Okay? Go with your first number when we divide up into groups, but it is good when we get to the when you conversate, let people know, like I am a pure 4 or I am a 4 2, because it's interesting to go look at others and say, oh, what are you? Okay? So what I'm going to do is we're going to listen to 3 songs back to back to back. Feel free to talk during the songs. My basic thing is, what does it invoke in you? What do you think of it? Listen to the lyrics, not just the music. I don't really want to know if you don't like that style of music. What I want to know is, does it feel like it connects with you on any level? Part of this is when I do World 2, there's going to be another world that'll be like, oh my God, when is this music ending? Okay? World 2 is probably going to be like, oh, this is pretty awesome music. Why? Because I'm trying to hit the spiritual, the spot for each one of these worlds. So we did that with the songs of World 1. We're going to do it with songs of World 2. We'll do it next week for World 3, folks. Then World 4, then World 5. Okay? And so we're going to listen to the music. Feel free to talk whenever it evokes something in you, among you. You can talk through the music. Does that make sense? Any questions? And we're going to conversate, then we'll end the music. I'll give you a few more minutes to continue conversations. Once I feel like it's dying down, we'll get back together and chat, and that will be it. Okay? Perfect. Oh, one last thing. For copyright purposes, I'm using YouTube links, which means there could be commercials. I can't control the commercials, so I'm sorry in advance. I will silence it if it's too scandalous.
Hello. Do you want to play with me? Sure.
This is just to St. Jude.
This journey with childhood.
Online, I'm going to go ahead and let you go at this point, just because all we got is music and group discussion. Feel free to have those group discussions in the back, but there's not a good purpose to keeping you guys on at this point. Hope you're having a great day. If you can, please like, share, follow, so you can get more of this content and other people can find us. I hope you have a great evening. God bless.